Well, it's the day after St. Patrick's Day. I hope everyone is feeling fine this morning and didn't overindulge last night and wake up with a hangover. Actually, I didn't do that last night, but I did get a new hat. My husband brought home a couple of Guinness beers. And I guess the guy that sold him the beers, just checking out this hat, gave him this, which he gave to me because my husband's too straight-laced for these kinds of things. But anyway, obviously I can't wear it any other day other than St. Patrick's Day, but, you know, and we don't really do anything on St. Patrick's Day anyway, because every day is St. Patrick's Day at my house. But anyway, I think that aside from yesterday being a holiday, sorta, it was kind of a weird day, you know, from everything from hearing about that doctor, the organ transplant doctor in Rhode Island who was working at Brown University, who got deported because she went to a funeral and went home and went to a Hezbollah funeral where there were thousands of people. They decided to send her back to Lebanon. I don't think that's a very smart idea, frankly, because she is somebody with some very valuable skills that are not easily picked up in the U.S. She was a transplant surgeon, or is one, and there aren't that many Americans who do that because it's a very stressful job where there's it's a problem with work-life balance with that specialty, because oftentimes it's, you know, you have to act when there's an organ available, and that may mean that, you know, you might be sitting at home enjoying yourself and you get called into work all of a sudden. I mean, I would imagine that would be true for most surgeons, but especially when you're a transplant surgeon. And in the United States, we've got a lot of people who need that kind of surgery. I mean, maybe not more than any other kind of surgery, but if you have a bad kidney that needs to be replaced, or you need a liver transplant or a heart transplant, those are skills you don't find every day. And I think there are probably a lot of MAGA people who probably have untreated diseases because they don't go to the doctor, because they can't afford health care, because they vote against their own interests. Eventually, maybe they might need a transplant. Granted, she was in Rhode Island. I think there are probably a lot of liberals there. It just doesn't seem very smart to me to be encouraging doctors with those kinds of skills to leave. It's the same kind of thing that's going on in the very extreme abortion ban states, where you're seeing a lot of doctors leaving. And a lot of them are OBGYNs because they can't practice medicine the way they were trained, and they're caught between a rock and a hard place when a woman comes in and needs an abortion for medical reasons, and they have to ask permission, or so they're leaving. And I think probably there's some from other specialties that are leaving because maybe they're married to OBGYNs, or they don't want to work in an environment where they have legislators and lawyers telling them how to do their medicine or how to do their job. I'm actually really, I don't even want to get started on the whole abortion thing. I've never had one. I've never needed one. And I can't say that I would ever voluntarily choose to have one if I were still capable of getting pregnant. But I do think women should have that choice. And it really upsets me that we have a bunch of especially old white men who think they need to butt in on that decision. It's none of their business. and they're going to kill women. If I were a young woman right now, I think I would probably just swear off any kind of, like, just, I wouldn't want to risk getting pregnant. But as it turns out, it's not an issue that I personally have to face. But yeah, that was one weird news item. And another one was hearing that Donald Trump has decided to dismantle the Voice of America. Now, I know that a lot of Americans probably don't know much about the Voice of America. Maybe they've never used it. I used to use it all the time when I lived in Armenia. I had a shortwave radio, and because I didn't have power a lot of the time, the first year, and I had this little shortwave radio that I bought from Radio Shack. And I would listen to Voice of America, which offered news in many, many different languages, but especially English. And they also had special English broadcasts where the announcer would speak especially slowly so that people who were learning English could get the news in English. And it was great for entertainment, and they would play music, and they would have people like Christy the Wordsmith come on and talk about the etymology of words. I hope I used the right word for that. The source of words. The roots of things. It was a very, very interesting. And I know that if you're in the United States, maybe you just never have needed that. But the original purpose of the Voice of America was to combat fascism from Nazis. And now Trump is dismantling it. So make of that what you will. But personally, it really pissed me off. I don't listen to VOA now. I haven't in many years. But it was a godsend to me when I was living in a developing country. Aside from that, there are other things I could talk about, but I don't want to make this a long video because I really made a lot of videos yesterday, and I've got some things I need to do. But I did want to come on and talk about that a little bit, and, thank everybody who listened to yesterday's videos. I kind of overdosed a bit and got behind on my other stuff, which is mainly writing. So I need to get back to that. And I would like to shout out to Thomas DeFreitas, who is an occasional commenter on my channel and a poet. And I've been hanging out on his channel on occasion, listening to him recite poetry, because he's just written this book. It's backwards, but this is his book. I ordered it because I enjoyed his poems on his channel. And it's quite clever, actually. I was an English major in college, and I never was much of a poetry fan per se, but I do like a clever poem. And some of these are pretty witty. I could read one. I don't think I would do it as well as Thomas does. He's got a great voice for reading poetry. But here's one I will read. I'll read this one. It's called 80s Soundtrack, which is about right for me. We snuggled ugly, you and I, under the lampposts of Noddle Island in August. We gobbled Hitchhiker's Guide, played Depeche Mode, until September deep-sixed our adventures. We lived, we did, wrestled, wrote poems, dozed, feckless and dopey, amid stiff triple-deckers. Subversive sophomores in a sensual summer. Daffodils in the boxing ring. Monks at the circus. Mope rock symphonies, falsetto sobs. Sparkle in the rain. Low life, hat full of hollow. You've run off with my reason, split with my wits. Jaybird of the Fireplug's Buxom Bundle of Whim. Just a side note, Hatful of Hollow. I'm impressed. That's a good album. Of course, it was introduced to me by a former best friend, but yeah, I'm a fan of the Smiths. So, anyway, congratulations, Thomas DeFreitas, on your new book. And I will cherish it, and I'm sure to read the whole thing because it's not super long. I also got some art yesterday. I don't have it unpacked yet because I'm afraid if I unroll it, that I will ruin it. But it was a painting done by the guy who was fostering Arran, our dog that I talked about yesterday in my video, that we lost 2 years ago. He is an artist and a photographer, and he made this painting about a year ago, and I said I really liked it, and I told him I was actually hoping that Bill would buy it, but he just never got around to it, and so my friend Bruce made an Etsy store, and he says, hey, that picture you liked, you can buy it. So I did, and that was, quite reasonable. I think it was meant to be with us, and I look forward to, maybe I can find a picture of it on Facebook and I'll share it with this video. But anyway, I love art that makes you stop and think, and that one actually did. I wouldn't say it's the most complicated art I've ever seen, but it makes you stop and think, and that's what I like. Thinking is a good thing. And one last comment I will make before I close this video. To the person that left me a comment yesterday saying that I should stay in Europe, as they downvoted my my video about thanks, but I won't be doing that. I just want you to know that if I could stay in Europe and there wouldn't be any issues with things like learning a language and visas and all the other stuff, I would happily do it. I like living in Europe. I find the lifestyle is better here. It's better on many levels. People don't work until they're dead here. There aren't as many stupid people here. There aren't as many weapons. There's a lot better wine and it's less expensive. No 200% tariffs. You just don't have as many morons in Europe as you do in the United States right now. That's a fact. I'm an American. That's my home. And I love America. And, sorry for you, but I am an American. I have a right to go home if I want to. And I have a right to vote if I want to. For now, anyway. But if I could, I would just stay here. Honestly. I like it. And that's why we were in Italy. Because we were looking to see if maybe we might stay down there. If they would have us. And by the way, did not find any anti-American sentiment on that particular trip. So, handy tip. I think they all know, most of them anyway, the more intelligent people over here, they know that this is a temporary thing. Most modern countries that have power, they have had people like Trump in power. If you look at history, maybe it was not recent history, maybe with the exception of Germany and Hungary, of course, but it's not uncommon to have people like Trump in power, and those regimes never last, for the most part. I would accept Russia from that, maybe, but they are smart enough to know that it doesn't represent all of us, and it's not going to last. So, that's all I got to say. Thanks for watching, and I've got to get to work on my writing, so ciao.